Hey guys, Shine Midget here. I'm back with the same gun that I had in the other video. It's a Alpha CRB. Now this had the Polar Star Jack in it. Now it has a Valken V12 because the Polar Star Jack was leaking like crazy. Now the person that owns this, actually, I've been recommending to him to get a V12 for a while. He bought a gun for my brother and was going to drop a V12 in that. It's a DMR. And I was like, that's a good idea, blah, blah, blah. He had this Polar Star Jack installed by a local field, and it was just leaking, and you had to adjust the dwell every time we went and played when it was cold. The building that we went and played in, it was probably 30 degrees. It was freezing cold in there. It was warmer outside, and the building just couldn't warm up. So basically it was having dwell issues. You have to adjust the dwell, and then when it get warmer, you could turn it back down, all these weird things in order to get it to feed reliably, and then it just started leaking. I haven't taken the engine apart. It probably just needs cleaned and put back together. But that's an issue that I don't have with V12s. And V12s are cheap, and so he just decided, he got a paycheck, he just decided to buy a V12 setup, a full setup, a setup just like mine. So this basically is as good as you're going to get with a V12, pretty much. It's got all the nice upgrades. As far as externals, it's literally the same. If you didn't see the other video, it's just a Alpha CRB. It's got this M-LOK rail. I think that's considered M-LOK. Metal rail, metal body, standard stock, standard pistol grip, because the Alphas come with the standard pistol grip, which is fine because this grip connect was a drop straight in fit. Hop-up wise, I had to take the Mad Bull Red bucking out. It was clogging. I put the stock bucking in here, and I'll tell you, it's shooting 180 feet with .2s really well. Now, .2s, why do I use light BBs with high rate of fire? Because they're light, because they feed. I was shooting with a 6-year-old GMP mid-cap .2s. Feeds 100% with .2s, just through the whole thing at 35 rounds a second. You can't get that when you put 2.5s, 3s in there. It's unfortunate. I like to build my guns to shoot really, really nice with 2s and 2.5s, light BBs. Now, if you're going for DMR stuff like 450 FPS, you're going to want to use 3s, 3.2, 3.6s, you know, and plus. But with higher rate of fire, it's easier. It's to get guns to feed with lighter BBs also, but also it's less joules when it comes to HPA, so you're not going to be getting as much energy out on that BB per BB. So that's good. So we're shooting roughly 1.1 joule with a .2, which is 350 FPS. That's where he's going to run this, indoor and outdoor. That's what I told him. If he's going to shoot the 35 rounds a second, which is what I'd recommend, this is a nice short gun. It would be, you know, this is a nice high rate of fire gun. Stay at 350 with a .2, which is 1.1 joule with the 2. You know, he can shoot, you know, 35 rounds a second and just blast people at a low FPS. That's safe. But if the field is very picky with rate of fire, I told him to turn it down. I'll show him how to adjust the rate of fire on these. Turn it down to like 25, and then turn your FPS up to the field limit. As far as internals or externals, nothing changed besides a retro arm selector switch, which had to be on here because the stock KRYTACs are proprietary. So this drops in on a KRYTAC. I can confirm this is a retro arms. It drops in, it clicks into place super, super well. So for those people that are trying to do conversion, V12 conversions, or even fusion engine conversions for your KRYTAC, just grab one of these. They're like $12. He has a grip connect. All these parts are brand new. A brand new Valken V12. This is the new firmware, but I switched it to the manual mode, so it's not dynamic, so it's not going to adjust the settings on its own. I manually adjusted the settings because with the dynamic it just doesn't work as well. I shortened the trigger pull. It's pretty short. I did weaken the spring a little bit, just so it's nice and smooth, not much resistance there. There is a gold nozzle in here, a red low flow poppet by Polar Star, and then there is the banjo fitting by Polar Star. So the banjo fitting actually needs modification to fit on the V12. I will say this, I do not like the design of the banjo fitting. The QEV is so much better. They basically have the same design. They work the same, which is basically to save you air. But the way this one works, the banjo, is you have to cut the plastic off of the V12 or the plastic little cap that goes over the engine. You guys will know what I'm talking about if you have a V12. That plastic cap, you have to cut off the bottom completely in order for it to fit on there. So that sucks, but that's just what you got to deal with, really. Again, gold nozzle. Also, the way the banjo fitting installs, you have to screw it in instead of thread it in. So normally on the QEVs, there's a thread right here, a little screw that you tighten down. It's a small Allen wrench. You tighten it down, there you go, it fits. With this, you actually have to thread it on. I'm not very good at explaining this, but when it tightens all the way down, it's sideways. So, and it says you're not supposed to really yank it down. It says leave it a little bit loose, which is hard for me to believe because you'd think it would leak. So I tightened it down just once. I gave it one good tug, and it's tight and it's perfectly straight. No leaking from it whatsoever, so it functions properly. It's just something that you're not going to be able to take off and on all the time. And you have to take that off and on in order to get the nozzle out. So this is kind of a huge pain. So what I have to do is I have to unhook the hose from the back of this valve every single time in order to avoid unscrewing the banjo fitting every time to get the nozzle out, because if you unscrew that banjo fitting every time, it's going to strip the threads eventually. So basically I just have to pop the hose off on the back of the valve, the back of the solenoid back here, pop it off, and then unscrew the nozzle housing to avoid taking off that banjo. Shouldn't have to take this gun apart. It's brand new. Everything's brand new. Everything's running fine. Gold nozzle shoots pretty perfect, so there should be no reason to take this thing apart, but that's just something I thought I'd mention. The QEV valves are so much better, but they're out of stock everywhere, and I've emailed Valken, and I'm like, you need to get your crap together. You need to get these in stock, because, like, I do a lot of V12 conversions, and honestly, part of the reason why it's been a little bit slower on V12 conversions is because QEVs are nowhere to be found. They're all out of stock. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the internals. I don't think I'm missing anything. I've got the FCU set closed bolt, 35 rounds a second, and then the nozzle timing I have adjusted. It's 6 milliseconds, which is good for .2s. I was feeding pretty good with 2.5s at 8 and 10 on the nozzle timing. It skips here and there, so that's why I'm just like, honestly, just use some .2s. I've got Airsoft Alpha, the beautiful Airsoft Alpha .2s, and these things just chug through it, even with crappy mags. So I think it's going to be happy overall. Even outdoors, shooting .2s out of the gun, 1.1 Joule with a .2, which is 350. He's going to have a lot of fun on full auto. He's not normally a full auto user, but trust me, when somebody's 100 feet away and you flip this thing to full auto and you blast 20 BBs down towards them, they're going to call that hit, and it's just extremely fun. So yeah, let's get into shooting it. Alright, so let's go ahead and chrono it. I'm going to be using a 5 to 6 year old GMP mid-cap .2s. I decided to go with .2s with this gun, basically for feeding. It feeds perfectly with .2s. The gun actually shoots pretty good with 2s. I ended up putting a Lonex 50-degree bucking in here. The KRYTAC one liked .25s, and it shot pretty good. With the Lonex 50-degree bucking, it shoots as good as the KRYTAC did with 2.5s, and this is shooting with 2s. So just to put that in perspective, this thing shoots very good. It shot very good with 2.5s with the KRYTAC, but when I went to .2s, I was shooting just very inconsistently. Didn't even sound very good. It kind of sounded like it was clogging a little bit. Swapped to a Lonex 50-degree bucking, and it's shooting 180, 200 feet now. The chrono, or the regulator, I have it set for 80 PSI now because the dwell and all that sort of stuff changed around. The dwell is still at 2, I believe, so it's low dwell, but you have to rise the PSI to get 350. We're at about 350, so let's just go ahead and chrono it just to make sure. 351, 345, 351, 354, 355, 355, 348, 341, 345, 343, 351. Not the most consistent thing in the world. Like I've said multiple times, if you want FPS consistency, get a freaking Fusion engine. Rate of fire, 35.2, 345 FPS. I hope you can see that. So we're keeping our FPS and shooting right at 35 rounds a second, which is going to be perfect, and it feeds even with really crappy magazines, which is nice. That's perfect, so he can use pretty much any magazine he wants and blast on full auto. Again, 35 rounds a second, 350 FPS, nothing insanely high. Also, one concern to shooting fast on full auto is actually consistency on full auto. You know, consistency on full auto and accuracy isn't super important because you are launching a bunch of BBs downrange. But what you don't want is your BBs to shoot lower a full auto, and then they hop better on full auto. You want equal consistency, so when you pull that trigger and you're shooting 200 feet with .2s, you want your BBs on full auto to shoot generally in the same amount of hop. Of course, it's going to be a little bit more spread, some better than others, but you want that general accuracy. So, and this absolutely has that general accuracy. I'm aiming in the exact same spot, and the BBs are going in the exact same spot on semi and full auto. It's why I really like these. I like the Maple Leaf 50s too, but I really like the Lone X 50s. They're only $5. I say swap your bucking about every year. You buy one of these $5 a year, and you're going to be shooting top notch year after year after year. Perfect. Let's try another magazine. That's just, it's perfect. The feeding is perfect. So as far as air efficiency, I mean, it's nothing crazy. We might be going to Splatter Park this Sunday. I would encourage him to give this gun a try if he wants to go out and play with it. Because it's a nice shooting gun. It's shooting about 180, 200 feet with .2s. You know, feeding is perfect with .2s. 350 FPS. It's got enough power to get out there. You know, obviously the BBs are slower, but he has that advantage with the full auto, the high rate of fire. So he can, you know, send a bunch of BBs downrange pretty much at a low power, which is cool. That's how I like to do things. We might be going to Splatter Park this Sunday, like I said. They do free air fills there, so he only has one 62 cubic inch tank, so he can fill up his tank. They fill it up about 2,700 PSI, so almost all the way full, and he can probably play with that until lunch, honestly. He could probably get a good, I think it's like 3 hours from starting to lunch. So 3 hours of play. I'm pretty convinced that it would last him, especially because not all the games are full auto. So you have some full auto games, some semi. You know, the semi-auto games obviously go semi, don't cheat. And he definitely wouldn't. He's not a cheater whatsoever. He's a very honest person. So, you know, majority of the games are going to be semi-auto. So I think that 2,800 PSI in his tank, 62 cubic inch tank, will last him till lunch. So 3 hours. I think it would last him. He does need to invest in a carbon fiber tank, and he actually told me that. He needs to get one, like a 90 cubic inch or an 88 cubic inch, something like that. Of course, trigger response is there. The trigger being not straight, it's a little bit harder to shoot quick, but I can still get it going. He doesn't really shoot like that, which is fine. He normally shoots just with his trigger finger, which is cool. You shoot however you want. We're out of ammo. Let's try this really old GMP mag again. Man, this thing is freaking perfect. Let's go ahead and put it through the chrono real quick again. I'm just curious, after shooting it a little bit, if it's going to stay the same. You never know, because guns can fluctuate, and that's not exactly a good thing. You want it to be as consistent as possible. 350, 348, 354, 351, pretty much smack dab 350. 1.15 joules is 351, so that's pretty much perfect. 35 rounds a second, 349 FPS. So that's perfect. All right, let's go ahead and shoot first person. So this is just so fun to shoot. I just keep shooting it. And this thing's beautiful. I gotta quit shooting it. I'm gonna run out of air. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'll see you guys in the next video.